Well, talked about Leafs haters in the comments. We're going to talk about the Leafs a little bit. Dubas and Shanahan had a presser yesterday. They said exactly what I expected them to say. Like, they believe in their process so strongly, and they're either geniuses because it's going to work out, or they're insane. Because what's the definition of insanity? Trying the same thing over and over again, doesn't work, whatever. They're either geniuses because eventually it will, or they're actually insane. I hope it's the former. But
hope so too.
I don't know. Basically what we took away from that press conference was that they're not making changes in management or coaching staff. What they believe to be the core of their team is likely going to stay intact moving forward. And if there's an opportunity to strengthen their team, they will, which is what every GM should say because that's what you're paid to do. What were your takeaways from?
Yeah, 3 big things. Number 1, you said it. They're not changing the front office. They're not changing the GMs. Thank God, because that's a very strong asset of this team.
Yes.
Second of all, depth players is something I want to talk about, and the big third one is Campbell's future as a Toronto Maple Leaf. The first thing I want to say is that you're right. They did say they weren't going to change the core for the sake of it. We've all heard that before, but there's a lot of rumblings, especially what we saw in the Nylander press conference. He was grilled pretty hard about what he makes of a possible trade this offseason, and Nylander handled it like a pro. He said, my name has been in trade talks ever since I've been here.
It's true.
Just keep putting up points and keep playing for the team, and we'll see what happens. I'll admit, I was a little bit upset after that Game 7 loss, and I thought Nylander was going to not play again as a Maple Leaf. I still think there's a non-trivial chance he gets traded. I don't think it's absolute. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he gets traded because if you need to shed money, which you do, if you're going to make a trade, you need to be trading a valuable piece if you want to get anything back. He's really the only guy because the other contracts aren't tradable or you would never want to trade them. So he is that guy, unfortunately. If you can strengthen your team, we said last episode, go ahead and do it. But I'm glad they said they're not going to. I'm glad they didn't come out swinging and saying, oh, we're going to, do this, and that. Even if that's what they were thinking, they would have never said it publicly anyway. But at least there's going to be a logical approach. Because if fans like us were in control, it would be less logical. So it's good that people get paid to do that as professionals.
Yeah. Second thing, depth players. This is a really big takeaway I took from what Kyle Dubas said. He said he very much believes in the mantra of not sacrificing payroll on big players that are irreplaceable for depth pieces that can be moved and are more replaceable. And I completely agree.
Me too.
In the NHL, under the nature of a hard cap, you must find value in depth players because the big names demand big money and they're relatively irreplaceable players. So what this means to me is that I would expect to see Mikheyev, Kemp, Kasha all go if they are free agents. I know Mikheyev is.
Mikheyev is the only, I think Kasha's an RFA, so we have control over him.
True.
And Kemp has another year at a mill.
True. So, I mean, maybe the year after that, if the same thing happens, I mean, if they don't want the same contracts, they're going to have to go. And we see this in the NHL. We see a revolving door on the third and fourth lines because
that's how it should be.
Right. The first 2 lines, both offensively and defensively, demand big money. And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I think finding depth is going to be huge. He made a real point about talking about the prospects. He expects big steps from guys like Robertson, Holmberg. I know we won't see Matthew Nice because he's going back to university, but I expect him to be someone who makes a contribution. He's really sort of banging the drum on prospects having to come up on cheap deals and make an impact because this is the nature of a static cap that hasn't moved in 3 years, which has really, really affected the Leafs because they paid those big contracts with the expectation that it would go up $3 to $4 million every year. That's not an excuse. It's just a reality. So yeah, depth is going to be a huge key for them. They did a really good job last offseason finding depth, so let's hope they can replicate that moving forward because it was actually a strength of theirs this year.
Yeah, very good point. The last one I'll talk about is Jack Campbell. I mean, a little bit weird. They said they wanted to re-sign him, but I mean, every GM has to say this. They did say they were going to go out and assess the marketplace, quote unquote.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I have a bad feeling he's not coming back.
Why? Because we don't want to have him as the first goalie, or is it because he's going to demand too much money?
I don't know. I think they would probably want him back on a fair deal, but I don't know if this is fact or if this is just something that's been reported, but apparently they sat down and their first offer to him was like $2.5 million, and his first ask was $7 million. Imagine being that far apart.
Both of those aren't fair.
Yeah, they're not. But 2.5 is kind of a slap in the face. That's less than Mrazek, and we know Mrazek played like 4 games.
The 2.5 is a bigger slap in the face to Campbell than 7 is to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Right? The way that he played throughout the entire year, and granted, peaks and troughs and variability in performance do account for for how much you make.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, he's worth $5.5 a year.
On the open market easily.
100%.
Yeah.
He did say, though, in his conference, Jack Campbell, that he loves the guys in the room.
For sure.
He wants to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. He wants to win here. And I understand why that might be the case. They gave him a chance to be a first goalie, the first ever team to do it. He might feel like he owes something to them. He loves the guys in the room.
I don't know if he's taking discounts, though.
No.
Just because he hasn't made any money in his whole career. This is a chance for him to cash in big time. I wouldn't blame him. I'd love to have him back, but I wouldn't blame him for taking the most money.
Yeah, and he's not from Toronto. He's American, so why would he take a hometown discount? I mean, what I took away from that is they are not going to overpay him, and they could look elsewhere. What options do I see? I see one of Jordan Binnington or Ville Husso. One of them is going to be available because they both look like starting goalies now.
Yeah.
The second one I see is Semyon Varlamov because Sorokin's the guy, and man, Varley still has it.
Yeah.
Played pretty well. Had his name in trade talks this trade deadline, but remember we said Edmonton did not. Sorry, he said he didn't want to go to Edmonton.
Which is kind of funny.
I don't know what the answer is. I think Jack Campbell is good enough to be a starting goalie. And with the tribulations that he faced this year, what that tells me is that he can play well after facing adversity. He can play well in the playoffs, can play well in Game 7. Toronto hasn't seen a goalie like this in a while. I think they give him the 5. They're the 4.5.
I would err towards paying him, too, because you know what you get out of him, too. Carolina got really lucky last year when they said no to Nedeljkovic and Mrazek and went to 2 brand new injury-ridden goalies, and it's worked out for them. Freddie's probably going to get, I don't know if he has been or hasn't been, he's up there in Vezina voting for sure, and Raanta has turned into a playoff demon, but you can't bet on that happening if you're the Leafs, because I don't even know who's out there like you said, but there's something valuable about knowing what you have already and taking a gamble when this team can't really afford many gambles is something I would probably want to avoid at all costs. But
very true. You brought up the name Antti Raanta. I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent here. I want to ask you a question. Antti Raanta in the regular season combined with Frederik Andersen to win, what's the award called?
The Jennings.
The Jennings Award. Plays lights out as a starting goalie in the playoffs. Has he earned himself a starting gig on another team next year? And if so, is there a team... Dumb enough isn't the right word, but is there a team risky enough to take a chance on him for a full 82-game season?
I don't think you can. He's just so injury prone. I don't think he can. I don't think he can be your guy, the guy that gives you anywhere from 50 to 60 games. I think him and Mrazek are like a lot of pretty similar in terms of they're probably the perfect guys to like alter with another guy. It's just Mrazek decided that's harsh. He just got hurt this year, and Raanta was able to stay relatively healthy. I'm sure there is a team like stupid enough. I would say stupid because teams when they're desperate they get a little stupid. I think there probably would be a team that would overpay or maybe be a little too eager to give him a starting job. I think that may be a choice they come to regret in time. But I think that teams get desperate, they do stupid things. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that maybe happened at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm interested to see what the Leafs do next year. I mean, apart from the heartbreaking loss, now that the storm has cleared a little bit, there are positives you take away from this season. I mean, this team next year is going to be a cup contender again, regardless of what people say about out first round. We need a starting goalie, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah.